Through David Ritz, the writer who wrote her life story, we've learned some deep truths about the Queen of Soul that show us her real story. But here's what most people don't know about her life. The church girl who became the voice of a generation had experiences that made her music even more incredible. First, how being heard at home gave deeper meaning to Chain of Fools. Second, why the FBI was secretly watching her every move during her biggest hits. And finally, how her religious music was never separate from her pop songs. It was the spiritual truth behind every single song she ever sang. Picture Detroit, 1956. That 14-year-old girl stands in her dad's church, New Bethel Baptist, making her first album called Songs of Faith. That girl was Aretha Louise Franklin, daughter of the famous preacher C.L. Franklin. Her religious training shaped her voice and spirit. But here's what made it tough. Her mom Barbara left the family when Aretha was just 6 years old. 4 years later, her mom died when Aretha was only 10. Then by ages 12 and 14, she became a teenage mom twice, raising sons Clarence and Edward while she was still a kid herself. For 10 years, Aretha tried to make it in regular pop music. Columbia Records signed her in 1960, but nothing really clicked. Everything changed in 1966 when producer Jerry Wexler at Atlantic Records harnessed her faith-based voice, making Respect a global anthem. Then came 1967, the year that changed everything. Respect was originally a song by Otis Redding about a man wanting respect from his woman. But when Aretha sang it, she flipped the script completely. She wasn't asking for respect, she was demanding it. And with those famous letters, R-E-S-P-E-C-T, she spelled out a whole new era. The song hit #1 on both the main charts and the R&B charts, getting her the first of 18 Grammy Awards. But what fans didn't know was the personal struggle she was going through while creating this anthem about standing up for yourself. So let's start with the first important truth. David Ritz, the writer who wrote her official life story, found out how Chain of Fools came from a very personal place in Aretha's life. Chain of Fools came from the pain of her marriage to Ted White. He was her manager and husband from 1961 to 1969. According to Time magazine back in 1968 and Ritz's research, White beat her up multiple times. This is called domestic violence, which means being hurt by someone in your family. The violence got worse as Aretha became more famous. Her brother Cecil told Ritz that White was controlling and dangerous. Here's what's incredible. Instead of letting the abuse destroy her, Aretha turned that pain into some of the most awesome singing ever recorded. Ritz discovered that Aretha used music as a way to deal with pain and turn it into something strong. Chain of Fools hit #2 on the charts in 1967, turning her personal nightmare into something that gave other people strength. The song won her a Grammy Award in 1969 for Best R&B Vocal Performance by a Female. But more importantly, it became an anthem for countless women who were going through similar situations. By 1969, she found the courage to leave Ted White, taking back both her personal freedom and control over her music. This became her pattern throughout her career, taking life's hardest moments and turning them into gold. She showed that music could be medicine, not just for people listening, but for the artist creating it. 4 sons to raise, a career to build, and the strength to inspire millions of other women facing their own chains. But you know what? Her personal battles were just the beginning of a much bigger story that the FBI was quietly writing down for decades. If Chain of Fools helped you through tough times, drop a purrs in the comments below. Here's the second incredible truth. Aretha was brave in ways that went far beyond her personal fights. While America was dancing to Respect, The FBI was building a 40-year file on the Queen of Soul. The FBI started watching her seriously around 1967, not because of her music, but because of her politics. According to FBI files and research, Aretha quietly gave money to groups fighting for equal rights like the SCLC and Black Panthers. She was risking her mainstream career to fight for justice. The most documented moment happened in 1970, when activist Angela Davis was in jail. Aretha made a statement that shocked the establishment. She publicly offered to pay Davis's bail money, saying, and this is her actual quote, "I'll use black music money for black freedom." Get this, the FBI's interest had already gotten intense after she sang at Martin Luther King Jr.'s funeral in 1968. Here was America's sweetheart, using her platform to challenge the system. Respect wasn't just a pop song anymore. It was a protest anthem, being sung in marches from Selma to Washington. Her music, like Respect, topped charts while drawing from her religious music's moral power, proving resistance could be uplifting. Songs like Spanish Harlem, which hit number 2 in 1971, continued her impact even during the tough disco era, when giving money to civil rights groups hurt her finances.
I run for the bus stand.
The FBI files show they kept watching her through the 1970s, writing down her connections to various activists and organizations. They never found evidence of illegal activity, because there wasn't any. Aretha's rebellion was perfectly legal. She was using her voice and her wallet to support justice. What the FBI never understood was that for Aretha, fighting for equal rights wasn't separate from her music. It was the same calling, coming from the same faith-based background that created every song she sang. But there's one more secret the FBI never found out about. Our final truth is about understanding what "I Say a Little Prayer" really meant to Aretha Franklin. According to interviews with her sister Carolyn Franklin in The Guardian, this beloved song had a deeper meaning than most fans knew. "I Say a Little Prayer" was full of holy meaning based on Aretha's church background. Her sister Carolyn, who helped write the song, shared that it embodied her sister's faith amid life's trials. Remember, she'd already been through so much. Her mom leaving at 6, dying at 10, and having to raise 2 sons as a teenager herself. This song showed how Aretha's religious background stayed with her even when she was making pop music. The song hit number 10 on the charts in 1968, but making it big meant something deeper to Aretha. It proved she could bring her whole spiritual self into pop music without having to change who she was.
When the soul in the lost can find.
This faith-based foundation explains one of Aretha's greatest achievements. In 1972, when she was at the peak of her pop hits, she went back to her roots with Amazing Grace, a live church album recorded at her dad's church. A lot of artists would have thought this was career suicide. Instead, it became the best-selling church music album in history, selling over 2 million copies. The album wasn't her leaving pop music behind. It was like coming home and showing how holy music had been there all along. Every Respect, every Natural Woman, every Chain of Fools had the same spiritual power that made Amazing Grace so awesome. As a single mom raising 4 sons while building a legendary career, Aretha found in church music not an escape from the world's problems, but strength to face them. When she was inducted into the Gospel Music Hall of Fame in 2012, it wasn't honoring a side career, it was recognizing the religious foundation that made everything else possible. The faith-based foundation was never separate from her pop hits. It was the source of both her artistic power and her personal strength. While Aretha was using her religious foundation for pop hits, she was also quietly making her mark in the music business that was mostly run by men in the 1960s and 70s.
Oh God, today.
Aretha contributed to songs like Respect with her piano and vocal arrangements, which was rare for female artists back then. From her very first Atlantic Records sessions, she insisted on playing piano on her tracks. This wasn't just about wanting to be artistic. It was about having musical control that most women were denied. According to research from 500songs.com, Jerry Wexler, her producer at Atlantic, later admitted that Aretha's best sessions happened when he stepped back and let her lead. The piano arrangements on Respect, the vocal arrangements on Chain of Fools, the overall spiritual feel of Natural Woman, these all came from Aretha's musical instincts and religious training. Her influence inspired artists like Whitney Houston and Beyoncé to blend power with staying true to their music. She became living proof that female artists could keep their artistic honesty while making tons of money from music.
My doctor said to take it easy.
This creative control led to never-seen-before popularity. Between 1967 and 1974, Aretha scored 20 #1 hits on the R&B charts. She wasn't just performing songs, she was changing them over, often transforming other artists' songs into something completely her own. Her production skills were clear in Amazing Grace, where she directed the musical arrangements and spiritual energy that made it historic. The Academy of Achievement notes that she became a template for how artists could bridge making money with deep musical substance. Maybe her greatest pioneering achievement was proving that religious music technique could make any genre better. She brought church vocal runs to pop music, spiritual intensity to R&B, and sacred respect to love songs. By the time she got the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2005, Aretha had won 18 Grammy Awards across 5 decades, proof of sustained excellence and growth as an artist. She wasn't just the queen of soul, she was the architect of modern vocal performance that connected heaven and earth. Now we get to what David Ritz called Aretha's most important reflection, one that connects all 3 truths we've talked about tonight and explains her entire legacy.
I've truly been found.
In his final interviews with Aretha, Ritz shared her reflections from her final years. "I never left gospel. I brought gospel to the world." This wasn't just a beautiful quote. It was the key to understanding everything. The strength that got her through domestic violence, the courage that made her an FBI target, the faith-based foundation behind every song. It all came from the same source. Even while fighting a serious illness from 2010 to 2018, the same rare type that killed Steve Jobs, Aretha kept performing with incredible strength. According to HCA Healthcare, she faced her illness with remarkable grace and humility. She kept her illness private, not from shame, but from the same religious strength that had carried her through decades of challenges. Her final public performance came in November 2017 at Elton John's AIDS Foundation Gala. She looked frail, but her voice was still strong, reminding everyone why she was irreplaceable. 3 months later, she was gone, but not before making sure her real message would survive.
And what it means to me, R-E-F-E-C-T.
In 2019, Aretha became the first individual woman to receive a special Pulitzer Prize award, given after she died, for her lasting impact on American music and culture for more than 5 decades. The award specifically noted how she mixed different types of music, official recognition of what she'd been doing all along. Her influence echoes through every major singer who followed. Beyoncé credits Aretha with teaching her that power and vulnerability can coexist in one voice. Alicia Keys says Aretha showed her how to make the piano cry and sing at the same time. Jennifer Hudson, who played her in the 2021 movie Respect, called her the blueprint for staying true to your music. With over 75 million records sold worldwide and a cultural impact that went way beyond music, Aretha achieved what seemed impossible. She made religious music universal without watering down its power. She proved that sacred and non-religious music weren't opposites, but partners in the work of healing human hearts. Her real truth was never hidden at all. It was there in every note she sang, that music at its highest calling is prayer you can hear, strength made into song. So there you have it, 3 insights that enrich Aretha Franklin's enduring legacy. A woman who transformed personal pain into Chain of Fools, who risked career security to fund groups fighting for equal rights, and who never saw any difference between sacred and non-religious music. Because for her, all music was prayer. The next time you hear respect, remember it came from someone demanding dignity while fighting for it at home. When Chain of Fools plays, think about a survivor transforming abuse into art that helped millions. And when I Say a Little Prayer comes on, know you're hearing spiritual thoughts from someone who used faith to fuel both personal healing and social revolution. Aretha Franklin wasn't just the queen of soul, she was living proof that our greatest challenges can become our most powerful gifts to the world. What's your favorite Aretha Franklin memory? Did one of her songs help you through a difficult time? Share your story in the comments below. I'd love to hear how her music touched your life. If this story inspired you, hit that like button and subscribe for more verified stories behind the legends, because the most powerful truths don't need exaggeration, they just need to be heard.